What if I told you that one of our clients had to pause his ads? Not because they weren't working, but because he was closing too many clients too quickly. That's exactly what happened with Daniel. When he came to us, he was relying on cold outreach, manually creating his own leads, doing whatever he really could. He was spending most of his time chasing new business. So when we came in, we built him a new offer. We built him a whole complete end-to-end client acquisition system, his ads, his funnel, his content, his sales scripts, everything built for him by us. Now, within just a few weeks of going live, he closed 5 new clients and was unable to take on any more clients. So we've had to pause his ads. But again, this sounds almost like too good to be true. And I get that. That's why I sat down with Daniel. So I'll let him explain it himself so you can see his journey. Awesome, man. So I guess before we did meet, what did everything look like for you for the agency before we started working together?
Yeah, so before I started with you guys with Automate Clients, I was just having to do everything myself. I had experience in sales, which is good, so I know how to generate my own leads, but it was still really time consuming and still a lot for me to handle and for manage, right? Sales quickly becomes like the most important thing happening because that's what's bringing revenue into the company, right? So, I found myself pushing away other things to focus on trying to get this deal, trying to figure out this lead gen, method, right? Trying different things and, nothing really being truly scalable, the way that ads are and the way that, you guys work where, ultimately I'm trying to, build a, scalable business long term where I can help save my time and, take a step back from working as much as I am working now one day, right? So, just to be able to, find something that is reliable, that, I know can scale, well compared to other channels, right? Ads is like the most scalable channel by far, I think, quite a bit. So, just not having to worry about that, where I can focus on just taking the sales calls and also on client work and fulfillment and that sort of thing. Yeah, it's been a huge help.
And what were you doing before? Like you mentioned, there are some things that you tried that wasn't scalable. Like what are the kind of outreach strategies or just methods in general that you were testing out before you met
Yeah.
us?
So of course, like network, people in my network and word of mouth, but mainly cold email. So I do cold email for clients as well, and just doing cold email for myself. It works, but it takes a lot of time, and then it is not as scalable, right? You get into issues around deliverability and list data and that sort of thing. And obviously, I run a cold email agency, so I'm confident that I can figure it out. And I did actually figure it out and have a good tactic that was working. But even then, it was just more time. I think that's what it comes down to is just freeing up my time. Where the tactic that was working was basically I was saying, hey, I'll provide 200 free prospects for you, right? So it
Yeah.
worked, but I had to spend 5 to 10 minutes every prospect, building a free prospect list for them. And it didn't take me much, it's pretty cheap, but it's still that extra 10 minutes, 15 minutes sometimes if it's a bit complicated. And then for no shows, right? Obviously, no shows is a big thing in sales in general. I was
Yeah.
doing 10, 15 minutes of work for a no show, right? So,
Mhm.
I was doing cold email and, working to a certain extent, but definitely not as scalable and more time consuming for sure.
So was it a question of like that there was a better strategy? Did you know that ads was did you understand how ads would fit into the method and actually work for you? Or were you just really not really sure at all like what to try? Just wanted something that was more, like you say, scalable that you could automate and not have to do loads of manual stuff.
I knew about ads through I was when I was previously director of sales at my previous company. So
Oh,
we had an ad budget of I think over 5 grand a month in ad spend, and
yeah.
I was managing that as the director of sales. So while I was doing that, I learned about the importance of measuring customer acquisition costs across all of your cost base, the lifetime value of a customer that you're getting from ads, these sort of calculations. So, and like just the funnel approach of building an ads funnel and having it successful, having it works. The issue with my previous company was just the unit economics didn't work. We weren't selling for enough money. Basically, we weren't selling the
Yeah.
service, the product for enough money. But obviously, with the agency, I can solve that. So yeah, I was confident in ads. I knew I just needed to find the right agency and the right ad agency to partner with.
And then, so did you book loads of calls? Because I know most people will be like, oh, I suppose like 5 people, right? And then I'll go with the one that I feel like can actually solve my problem. And did you do that, or did you see our ad and was like, cool, I'll speak to them, and it just kind of fell naturally? Or what was that process between I need to dial in my ads and my funnel and my offer, and then to actually, speaking with us?
Yeah, I started getting ads myself, of course, and I didn't talk to many people. I kind of have a friend who's soon to be a client, a friend who's kind of an ad agency or kind of yeah knows some people. So I think the difference with me is I kind of knew what to look for as well.
Yeah.
Like I didn't really talk to a lot of agencies, but I got on with you guys and really quickly could see just the level of detail and also in your content and a lot of the stuff that you guys talked about like what's important as well, right? I think again, it's tough because it only really comes from experience, but like essentially I knew and I sold marketing. My previous job, I was selling marketing, right? So I knew marketing in general, but also kind of I had a good sense of what good was, right? That's what I tell people sometimes as well when I'm selling to them, right? About like they have a commercial cleaning business or whatever, right? And they talk to lots of people. They feel like they get burned in the past from sales agencies, which is what I'm selling. And I'm like, hey, I don't blame you. It's hard for someone who's an expert in commercial cleaning to know what good is, right, and how to differentiate different agencies. So for me,
Yeah.
I think I was a little bit fortunate where I kind of knew what to look for, and really quickly, early on in the process, I knew, okay, James, Ron, these guys are legit based on what you talked about and the level of detail that you
Yeah.
talked about with the system.
So is that mainly, like you said, why you made the decision to work with us was just like the confidence you got through our process? And like you say that we obviously send specific content pieces to you. Like we know what problems you already have, right? So do you feel like, I guess what you're saying is from seeing our ad to obviously going through our sales process, the content that you watched, the information that we gave you, was that a lot of the decision making around like, okay, these guys are legit, these guys are who they say they are?
Yeah, yeah. Thinking back to it, what gave me confidence was just the level of detail, right? You weren't talking about just a VSL or just an amazing ad, right? Or just putting together, just having a funnel in general, right? It was every step of the process. I could tell that you have thought of that you thought through, right? So really, for me, just the experience really shone through because people, and even I can even see it in the ads that I get, because obviously I'm still getting ads, right? I'm getting targeted for this type of thing where, someone's just talking about a VSL only. We'll make your VSL the best thing possible, right? Or we'll make your ad, amazing or whatever, right? But I could tell just kind of the way that you were talking and the level of detail that you were experienced, you knew what you were doing, right? Obviously you have good reviews and everything like that as well, which definitely helped. So yeah, I think it was just like the level of detail and kind of the sophistication that pretty quickly I picked up on that you guys know what you're doing.
So obviously you made that decision, right? And you like joined, and that was great. But what did we actually build for you? Just in case someone's watching this and they're like, okay, but what did you guys actually do? Like, what did we build for you? What surprised you? All of that stuff after you actually made the decision to join.
Yeah, really, really a full sales funnel, full sales pipeline, end to end, where it's not just about the ad or just about the VSL. It's about the system overall, kind of start to finish and everything, working together to get, obviously getting the ads there in the first place where people are responding. Like someone has to respond, click on an ad, and then land on the landing page. Then once they're on the landing page, they have to go to the booking page, and once they're on the booking page, they have to actually book. And then once they actually book, then they have to show up to the call, right? And then obviously
Yeah.
myself, I was confident in my ability to sell. So once someone's on the line with me, my ability to talk to them, right? But it's everything before getting people through the line. And I had people that you could tell just kind of booked in just with ads, right? You get the people that are kind of, they're decent prospects, the little bit tire kickers, right? But I also got some really, really good prospects that you could tell watch the content, right? That were kind of pre-sold and pre-qualified as well. So really, yeah, you guys put together kind of a sales funnel, start to finish in the sense of like for me getting interested businesses that are in my ICP, getting them on the line for me to talk to, and that's what I needed.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what we do, right? And like you said, there's so many steps. It's not just the ad, it's the ad plus the funnel, plus the booking page, plus how do you get those guys to even show up, right? How do you then separate the people that show up to like who's actually interested, who can actually help? And like you said, actually being able to convert them is a whole nother, and that's why we don't just say in our ads, we'll run your ads. Like we need to build a whole system that's going to work. So then, walk me through what actually happened. Like we hit live on the ads. I'm sure you were still a little bit skeptical, a little bit of like, how's this actually going to go? What was that like from, okay, we're spending money to like, how quickly did you see results? How quickly were you like reassured that this was going to work from there?
Yeah, yeah. I started talking to people really, really quickly. I'm experienced at this, so I knew the importance of, having someone calling ahead, confirming, right? Even taking calls, not just waiting for them on the video call, right? Texting them right away, calling them right away, that sort of thing. So,
Yeah.
but regardless, I was talking to people, right away, and the biggest thing that was okay, this is great is like they were exactly in my ICP. I still maybe don't know how you do the targeting exactly, right? Where pretty much every single person I first pitched, oh, so you own a commercial cleaning company. Yes. Every single person kind of was in my ICP, who I was trying to sell with. So, really quickly, yeah, started just having those qualified conversations, right? That's really, all it is in sales is, you want to speak to someone at the other end of the line on the video call that is interested and is qualified, essentially, right? In terms of, budgets are one thing, right? I kind of put the people have no budget, medium budget, lots of budget, whatever. But ultimately, it's about talking to people that are interested, that are in the ICP, because I'm trying to grow a sales funnel here, right? Like I know not everyone will sign up, right away, right? Some people take 2 months, which happened, right? Some people, take 6 months, right? But I'm trying to build a sales funnel overall, get the short-term wins, yes, but also build my sales funnel and build my sales infrastructure for success in the long term. So that's what I was able to do, where I was just talking to lots and lots of people that were interested and the type of business owner that I wanted to talk to.
And then we started off, was it $50 a day we started with?
Right. Yeah,
$50
$50
is
a day.
good to see, right? So do you know roughly how many calls you were booking on a week-to-week basis in the first, few weeks?
Yeah, I think we got up pretty high pretty quick. I think we were at what 15 at one point, like ten to 15 pretty quickly.
Which is insane, right? Like you think what, $350, that's so like sub $30 cost per call.
Yeah, yeah, it was really good. I think yeah, you were remarking on some of the reviews how strong the performance was.
Yeah, and that's what we aim for, right? We want to get everyone out the gate as quickly as possible. We want to make sure the ICP is the ones going through the funnel, showing up, and then obviously from there it's just about, value exchange. Do they believe that you can actually help solve their problem? But yeah, like I said, you came in. I think, well, how quickly was it you actually got the first client from showing up? Was it in the first couple of weeks? Was it in the first month? Like how quickly was it from launching the ad to actually getting that first client in from the
Yeah.
ad?
Let me see, and I'll go. I can tell you almost exactly. I don't know off the top of my head.
That's
Hold
okay.
on. View the document June 18th. So it was probably like 2 or 3 weeks. I would say. I know we viewed the document. Yeah, so June 18th, so that would be a month or so after we started. So he probably signed 5 weeks after we started, but then ads didn't go live for 2 or 3 weeks. So yeah, I
Okay.
probably signed the first client within 2 or 3 weeks of ads going live.
And that's exactly what we aim for, right? If we can do that, then it's just like proof of concept is there. So then obviously, so you said 2 months overall, right? Since we started completely, or how long since we actually agreed to work together from this day?
It was 2 months, yeah, and it took about we had a bit of delays with the ads and just getting the ad set up as a brand new ad account.
Okay.
But yeah, I think we started like about 3 weeks of setup, 2.5, 3 weeks of setup, and then ads were live for about 5 weeks, 5.5 weeks maybe.
And how many clients have you closed in the 5 weeks that the ads were live?
Yeah, so as of right now, closed 5 clients in about 5 weeks of ad spend, which is great. And yeah, just had a really, really 10 out of 10 call yesterday. So expecting, even though the ads are turned off for the moment. But yeah, expecting one more. So probably we'll be at six clients signed from like 5 weeks of ads.
Do you know how much that is in spend roughly? It's like 350 a week, right? So give or take what, like 1750? So no, I don't know. Maybe you can tell me how much you spent on the ads in that 5 weeks.
Yeah, so let's see, 50 times seven. So it's 350 a week. Let's say 5 weeks. Yeah, 1750
Okay.
on ads. Yeah.
Yeah. So that cost per acquisition, what's that? That's like 1750 divided by five. That's insane. $350.
Oh
That's
yeah.
just $350. Yeah. So now as an agency for yourself, you can obviously look at that. I mean, how does this change for you, right? So you think about where you were, you had the cold email, was getting some results, but it wasn't scalable. What do you feel like now? I mean, you said it yourself, you turned the ads off, right? Which is a good thing because it means that you need, more capacity to scale. But tell me about that kind of where you're at today versus where you were a couple months ago.
Yeah, yeah, and just a big like peace of mind thing, where I know I have this acquisition channel, right, that I can turn on and that, I'm quite, confident in is gonna or very confident is gonna get to clients, right? Where like running an agency, there's a lot of questions, right? Like obviously I'm newer. I've done this for quite a while, but I'm newer as an agency. We're basically looking to build. The goal really is as a scalable model where I can, get back my time and take a step back one day, right? So,
Yeah.
in terms of just grinding and, being a glorified freelancer, right? That's one thing, right? But ultimately, I'm trying to grow a scalable agency where I can, get back my time and take a bit of a step back, one day, right? As the owner and founder. So, acquisition and client acquisition is like, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, because it comes before fulfillment, right?
Yeah.
So it's just a massive, question mark for a lot of people, and a lot of people are just struggling month to month. And I experienced a dip earlier this year. So I signed clients, right, but they were not ideal, and then clients canceled on me. And I wasn't doing any outbound, right? So I was like, oh shit, I don't have many clients and I'm not running outbound. So, obviously I'm going to continue to do outbound in different forms for the moment, but just the peace of
Yeah.
mind where I'm like, hey, if I can just turn this back on, and there's a very very high chance that I'm going to get clients. Just the peace of mind to like confidently work on other areas of the business. For me that's fulfillment. So basically figuring out how I can service a client in less time than I'm doing now. That's really the goal, and what I'll figure out. And then once I'm done that, confident in that. By the way, just between me and you, I just need to build an AI agent to build my lists versus manual list building because the data is so important in cold email.
Yeah.
But anyway, just knowing that, okay, now that, okay, I'm stable as a business. I was signing people to 3 month minimums, by the way, right? So it's not just
Oh,
month to
okay.
month. So
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
these 4 of the 5 clients I've signed from this are 3 month minimums, right? So I know, okay, I have a bit of a runway here, with my business where I'm stable into October, end of September, October or so. Okay, now I know I can figure out what I have my short-term work on my fulfillment, right? And then once I have that solved, 100% will be, turning ads back on again and, working on that scalable business. That's really, really the dream.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, this is what it's all about, right? It's having that system. Like you said, once fulfillment is dialed in, you have that kind of conveyor belt method, right? Everyone's going through that same process. It's productized. What's that going to look like for you? So let's say you come back in 2 months, whatever it is, you turn the ads back on. Obviously, a big part of what we do is help you with sales as well. I know you're already good at sales, but removing you from sales will obviously be a key piece. Do you kind of see that as well in terms of the scaling? Like, okay, you come back, you turn the ads on, you remove yourself from sales. What does that next step look like for you? Like, what's the goal that you feel like where do you feel like this can take you in terms of like agency growth and, revenue and all of that good stuff?
Yeah, I mean it's clear path, I think, to 30 grand a month, 50 grand a month, more, right? That sort of thing, just because again, just so huge as like not having a question mark around, acquisition, right? In terms of how do we get qualified people, interested people on calls, right? Not having a question mark around that is huge just for business planning, right?
Yeah.
Because okay, I can obviously sell myself for quite a while, but eventually bring on a salesperson, where I manage salespeople, experience being director of sales. So obviously I'll be confident managing someone, one day, right? Where, I'm doing the right things to manage them, as well as obviously, managing the ads and making sure, what you guys do, vast majority of is making sure the ads are working well and working with you guys to make sure the acquisition is working in terms of getting people on calls, getting that salesperson in, and then, if and when my fulfillment is, low time, like bring on someone in Canada, the US as an account manager, right? Growing my team, right? Where the day-to-day client work and the fulfillment work is basically taken care of and the acquisition is taken care of. Okay, then
Yeah.
I can truly be that business owner, right? That is, managing things, kind of overseeing things, but working closer to, maybe 6 hours a day, 5 hours a day compared to, what I'm doing now, 9 or 10 hours a day, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's what it's all about, right? So when you look at this, obviously you've been through this journey, it's only been 2 months, but you've kind of, solved that biggest bottleneck, which is obviously client acquisition. You can see the runway, you can see what's possible. So again, we have obviously a lot of people that were where you were, right? There's obviously risk involved, in terms of ad spend, in terms of investing in a growth partner like us. So, if someone was sitting exactly where you were before hiring us, what would you tell them now that you've gone through this program, I guess, and got the result that you wanted to get? Like, what would you say to that person?
Yeah, James and Veron, they know their stuff. Like they're legit. Everything that they say is 100% true, and they're just like great people. Like ultimately down to earth. Good people to work with. Right. I think that's a big thing. Is
Mhm.
you're picking an agency for results, but you're also picking people to work with. Right. You're communicating. I think I was asking questions to Veron, almost every day, right? 3, 4 days a week, right? So, you're also picking just good people to work with, as well as obviously the experience of you guys have done many years, right? Managed, I'm sure, heck of a lot of money in terms of ad spend in the past. So yeah, I would just say, James, Ron, the whole team at Automated Clients, really knows their stuff and really just great people to work with. And yeah, just feel really fortunate that I've found a long-term growth partner.
Awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate you. And I know you said 30 or 50K, but honestly, with the results you got, like $350 cost per acquisition, obviously ability you have to sell, like everything that you have going, everything that we're looking at in terms of the funnel, the ads, the data, there's no reason you can't scale this well beyond, 100K a month, honestly. And I know it's probably like a scary number to a lot of people, but all it is just data, right? It's how much we're putting in and how much we're getting out. And it's just how many clients do we need to achieve that goal. So yeah, I think we can easily get there. I'm excited for when you fulfill the need you have in terms of fulfillment, and then we can get back on the horse and scale all the way. So
Yeah,
I
and
appreciate
I've been my last, I guess, week and a bit, I've been obsessing over the model that finds the results, right? The results side of
yeah, yeah.
clients, like I've been obsessing over, okay, if I can do this and I can do this, then, I know, and it's obviously it's a system that I've already proven out, the system that I know works. And as well too, like it was super helpful being on all these sales calls, because then I was able to develop, my offer even more, right? Develop my narrative even more, right? There's no substitute for just being on, 15 sales calls a week, right? Where you're talking to your ICP, you're hearing things, right? So I was able to adjust it to a service offering that made a lot of sense, obviously for the client, but also for me internally in the background. And then, yeah, now I'm obsessed over the numbers of, okay, if I send this amount of emails and this amount of replies, and like basically
Yeah.
getting people to a point where I'm looking at that LTV number now, right? And then measuring that and then bringing that into the equation. And then, yeah, like you said, at a certain point, once this stuff is proven out, it's all just numbers, right?
100%. And that's a big thing you said is that, like, yes, we want to make money short term. We want to get clients in. But you think about, like you said, the LTV, no one ever talks about LTV. It's all about how much money do you make today? It's like, if these people stay for 6, 12, 18, 2 years, but then also those people refer people to you, all
Yeah.
that does is lower the CAC anyway, lowers the cost to acquire. And then again, it all just fuels in, like you said, the valuable information you get from sales calls. And even if you went through the first 5 weeks and you'd only closed one client, the next week is always going to be better than the last based on all the information, based on all the feedback loops you get. So yeah, man, super excited to see where you can take this for sure.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you.